Let's now design a Mealy FSM to detect the sequence 1011. Now overlapping sequences are allowed. The first instance where you find 1011 is over here. So the output is asserted in cycle 5. The second instance where you see a 1011 is this one here. Remember, overlapping sequences are allowed, so you would see an output in cycle 8. There are no other places where you can find 1011. So let's try to construct the FSM that is to detect 1011. So we have S0, which is your reset state. So S0 corresponds to reset. From S0, if I get a 1, I move to S1 with my output still a 0. So S1 is 1. From S1, if I get a 0, I move to state S2 with my output still a 0. So S2 is 1, 0. From S2, if I get a 1, I move to S3 with my output still a 0. So S3 is 1, 0, 1. Remember, in a Mealy machine, the number of states is equals to the length of the sequence. So we have 4 bits in the sequence and we have 4 states. From here, we always look to transition back to some previous other state that we have. So let's go about this. From S0, if you get a 0, you remain in S0. From S1, you can either get a 0 or you can get a 1. If you get a 0, you move to S2. If you get a 1, is there a state with 1, 1? No. Is there a state with 1? Yes, which is S1 itself. So that's 1, 0. So S2 was 1, 0. From there, you can either get the input 0 or you can get the input 1. If you get the input 1, you move to S3. If you get a 0, is there a state with 1, 0, 0? No. Is there a state with 0, 0? No. Is there a state with 0? Yes. So that's the reset state. So from S2, if you get a 0, you go back to your reset state and your output is still a 0. S3 is 101. So from there, you can either get a 0 or you can get a 1. Now let's see what happens when you get a 0. Is there a state with 1010? No. Is there a state with 010? No. Is there a state with 10? Yes, that's S2. So you move to S2 if you get a 0, but your output still remains a 0. Now what happens if you get a 1? Remember, overlapping sequences are allowed, so you cannot really go back to the reset state now. So is there a state with 1011? No. Is there a state with 011? No. Is there a state with 11? No. Is there a state with 1? Yes, which is state S1. So from state S3, if you get a 1, you move to state S1 and your output is also asserted. So this is the Mealy machine or the Mealy FSM to detect the sequence 1011 with overlapping sequences allowed.